Hello, darkness, my old friend.
What's up, everyone? It's that bittersweet moment of the year where we lose some of the cards that have been in Standard for 2 years. Some of these cards will be missed, and other cards surely could have been gotten rid of a lot sooner and will never be missed. Speaking of which, Dominaria Teferi has been replaced by the lesser of two evils, War of the Spark Teferi. However, less than 1 year from now, we're going to get Core 2021. This is going to have an uncommon, rare, and mythic rare Teferi if it's anything like how they did this core set with Chandra. There's only 5 cards of Teferi right now printed in Magic the Gathering. Dominaria Teferi, which caused Approach of the Second Sun, Nexus of Fate, Esper Control, which were all ridiculously uninteractive decks. Teferi the Time Raveler, which seemed like a card to help against control, with the mythic rare Chandra and Feel of the Dead all from Core 2020, ended up making it harder to interact with control. Up third is Teferi, Temporal Archmage, which has been a Tier 1 competitive EDH commander since 2014. There's also Teferi, Mage of Zalfir, which is just a solid EDH card, but you play it at instant speed and then it's impossible to interact with you on your turn. Finally, there's Teferi Timebender, which is the only Teferi that isn't game-breaking, except for the fact that he came out of a Planeswalker deck and still, over 2 turns, has an ultimate that just gives you an extra turn. So you could say that...
Do you like Teferi?
I like Teferi, yeah.
Okay. I'm finally done talking about Teferi for the next 9 months, hopefully. Nexus of Fate is rotating out, which is another card that's part of an unfair combo deck that I don't imagine many other people enjoyed playing against. I'm glad it's gone, and hopefully there's not another box topper that does what this card did to the Standard format. While we're on the topic of combo decks, in Standard I should say that I do enjoy combo decks and think that the archetype should exist in every format. A deck that came out at the extreme tail end of this format is the Kethis Lazav combo deck, that unfortunately isn't going to exist as this Mox Amber rotates out of the format, which is an unfortunate thing to happen because this is a more fair combo deck with plenty of weaknesses that are played by many decks. Wild Growth Walker and his Explore friends are rotating out of Standard to never be used as a package deal again. I will miss them because they're like the Risen Reef combos in Standard right now, except more fair. And then, so many vampires are rotating out of Standard that I'm not going to name any of them specifically. But the entire deck basically took a huge bite into garlic, rolled out into the sun, and are going to wither away into history. Scape Shift is rotating out, which is amazing because all this card does is encourage non-interactive gameplay. The deck that plays this card ideally gets a surprise Teferi that I won't complain about onto the battlefield that essentially gives Scape Shift, this spell cannot be countered. This is a 7-mana combo, and it takes about that much mana to put 1,000,000 zombies onto the battlefield anyways. Teferi is the reason this deck gets to get away with not having any counter spells, and with Scape Shift going away, Field of the Dead will turn into less of a combo piece and more of a mid to late game grind your opponent out of resources card. The final pile of cards, which I am also happy is rotating out of Standard, is the entire creature base plus of Mono Red Burn. I love knowing that I could just lose on turn 4 in Standard. It gives me the adrenaline spike that I really look for when I play Standard. Red Burn is losing so many pieces that I cannot imagine this deck being playable in the near future. However, there's still a red deck that's not being touched, but it runs a lot more creatures and is easier to interact with. For the people that have been playing Standard for longer than 2 years, it'll be nice to not have a dominant red deck wins in the format. For anybody that's watching this video in the future, past rotation, or maybe for people that just don't know the Standard meta right now, Kethis Combo, Orzhov Vampires, Esper Control, Mono Red Aggro, and Boros Feather are each taking up approximately 10% of the meta. That's quite a large pool of playable decks for the Tier 1, and a much, much longer list for all the Tier 2 decks that have the ability to compete in this Standard, and I hope that with Throne of Eldraine coming out, that this will continue to be the case. The deck that I want to see become a tiered deck is Esper Flyers, based on a Layla that gets to throw in Sephara. Even if this does end up being a bad, terrible deck idea, you guys can look forward to seeing that deck on this channel in the future. As always, thank you for watching as I bring you continuously better audio each week.